everyone, I'm Dr. Hobbs. I'm an emergency medicine consultant and I'm a mother of 4 teenagers. I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about coronavirus to help people who are caring for people at home at the early onset of the illness when people become symptomatic. What I'm about to say is designed to help you. It's not intended to usurp your own medical advice, as everybody is different and their needs are different. It's designed to assist you, and no more than that. I can't and won't be held responsible for anything that may arise in any individual's case. I want to refer mainly to people who are otherwise well and who don't have specific comorbidities or illnesses such as diabetes or hypertension. So the general population who are normally well but are fearful at the moment of dealing with a coronavirus. Coronavirus, as we know it, is 14 days for incubation and has what could be up to a 14-day period of being symptomatic. Obviously, it may be that once you've got into hospital, you can be admitted for much longer than that. But it might be that if the person is well, and we're expecting 80% of people not to need to come to hospital, that particular illness might be very mild and just perhaps last for 7 to 11, maybe up to 14 days. So the first day 1 to day 4 of the illness is presenting as a temperature of 37.8 and above and a continuous cough. That temperature of 37.8 will be recorded with a thermometer. I suggest that you look at your thermometers, you make sure that the batteries have been replaced, and you make sure that you know how to use them. I would also think that if you've got a lot of people in the family, it's important that you actually document the times of what you were taking when with which individual, because it's very easy to get confused as to who had the fever at what time. It sounds simple initially, but if you have two or three members of your family who are ill at any one time, it's amazing how easily all these figures just coalesce into one. Simple paracetamol is what we use to treat the high temperature. That's going to be 1 gram 4 times in a 24-hour period, and it might be that you take that 1 gram 4 times in just the daylight hours, but probably by the time you wake up in the morning of the next day, you will be aching all over again, and that will be the fever bursting through, ready for you to start your next 1 gram every 4 to 6 hours. The other thing that helps bring temperature down is fluid. Just simple, good old water. The majority of us are dehydrated the majority of the time, and you can tell how well someone's doing just by looking at the colour of their urine. If it's dark and smelly like our morning urine is sometimes, then you're not doing well enough. If it's pale coloured urine, then you are doing well. Don't want to overhydrate them, but at the same point, it's good to see the urine being pale, and you must continue that. That does help bring the temperature down. Another thing that can bring temperature down is just a warm bath that isn't then topped up with hot fluid and then just allowing the hair to be washed and then not drying it. And what that does with the evaporation, it just helps cool the body down as well. And that might be a good thing if people are just too hot or tend to vomit after they've been given medicine, if they're very, very feverish. And obviously, if they vomit in the bath, then it's not so much of an issue for clearing it up. But it's a good tip to remember to help cool you down. Never put them in a cold bath, but a warm one that you don't top up because they will get out of it eventually is a good idea. The other thing, what I would say about the paracetamol is when you start that on day 1, you must continue it for 7 days. I think a big crime that's happening with the coronavirus is people are taking it really well for the first 1 to 2 days, and then they're not really quite so fussed about doing it on day 3 and day 4 because people are going, well, it wasn't too bad, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And the rigour of taking it in a disciplined fashion drops off. The problem with coronavirus is it seems to have a bite between about day 4 to 6, when people are coming in really quite short of breath, difficulty breathing, and that's when the airways get to their tightest and narrowest, usually between about 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's a very, very frightening time. But having controlled the temperature, and I truly believe if we control the fever and are well hydrated and rest, properly in that day 1 to 4, there will be less people needing to come in distress to hospitals in days 4 to 6. It might be from when the people come in shortness of breath that they respond to just having oxygen and they can go home. But unfortunately, a percentage of people will need to be ventilated, and the government is dealing with that. I'm not going to go any further into that. When someone's got a dry, tickly cough, that also punches above its weight, because it starts off in the day and it's just irritating. But actually that can really tire you out if someone continues to cough through the night. It can interfere with the sleep pattern. All ill people need more sleep, and it can interfere with that. So things that can be used to deal with dry, tickly coughs. Honey is always a good one. It's a simple one, so lots of people will like that. It does tend to work, I find. Things like Strepsils or the lozenges, any smooth lozenges, you just pop in the mouth and then people can just quietly let it dissolve under the tongue. That can work too. We've also got just simple tickly cough linctus, so sort of if you take the whatever's prescribed as the amount in the back, that can help take the tickle away. And if that tickle is taken away, you'll find the person will be able to sleep a lot better. It might be that they can sleep better if they're propped up a bit on, say, 3 pillows or whatever you want to bolster them up with. That certainly can help too. And if they can get some sleep, it may well be that they can sort of recover from this illness without necessarily needing to go to hospital. It's important with the paracetamol, if you are taking the paracetamol and these medications, you're thinking, actually, do you know what? I'm doing this, I don't feel quite right, but I feel considerably better than I did. What you mustn't then go and do is then go and do a 3-mile run on the jogging machine or go out for a run. You've got to respect the fact the virus is on board, and there is a fight going on between your immune system and it. And the way you can help your immune system is by taking the regular paracetamol, by drinking your fluids, by taking your over-the-counter medicines that can ease some of the symptoms, and that you don't then exert your body even more or stress your body even more. I find if people are resting, it's really, really good to have the feet up to the level of the hip height, because it just helps circulate blood through the kidneys better, it helps rest the heart. It's really, really good to also make sure you have an afternoon nap or an afternoon rest, because it's a long period of time between 8 o'clock or whenever someone goes to bed at night time. Fine when you're well, you can do what you like, but when corona is with you, it's important that you do get sleep and that you do get your feet up so that you can rest and let these drugs get into work. I truly believe that if we get these drugs in, you work better, that it gives you the chance to avoid needing a hospital admission. It might come the time between day 4 and 6, quite often in the middle of the night when the airways are naturally at their most constricted, that someone is feeling short of breath. At this point, it will have helped if you've already worked out someone's respiratory rate. And I've written a grid and put it on the kitchen with all my family members, for all the names down the y-axis, and including grannies, and then across the top I put day 1 to 14. But it's important that you know people's resting respiratory rates, and therefore also where their temperatures kick off at what particular day they're at. So it might be that someone has started with a fever at day 1, but another member of the family then gets a temperature 2 or 3 days later. So their temperatures need recording and their respiratory rates need recording, but you've got it on a grid. You will get so confused knowing where people are at the stage of the viral infection if you haven't recorded it. And it's important to remember it's not good enough just to think you've done your bit by being diligent and caring for the first 48 hours. It needs to go on for longer. The respiratory rate that I've alluded to is that you count people's resting respiratory rate by when they're not aware that you're watching them. You see how many times they breathe in 15 seconds, and then you times it by 4. And that will give you, on the whole, it's going to range somewhere around about 10 to perhaps 14. And then that means that you'll know if you've got a partner or a member of the family who's got respiratory rates much, much higher than that, say 26, so that you do actually need to go to hospital. And it gives you a figure you can actually talk to the ambulance about when they're talking to you Children's respiratory rates are much higher than that, so I'm talking about adults here. It's important to have vitamin C. It's important when we've got low levels of sunlight at the moment to have vitamin D as well. It's important to take those vitamin supplements, but to have fresh fruit morning and evening, and to eat well when you can. And if someone has got a temperature and isn't eating particularly well, remember it's the fluids, and perhaps sugary drinks such as Coke with a lot of ice cubes in it can usually work, because that gets the fluid in as well. Can help just bring that temperature down, and is a good way of rehydrating. I hope that helps. I think you can be, you're more experienced than you know. It's important that you sort of relax, breathe out and think, what can I do to help, and what simple things can I do to make the person I'm caring for feel more comfortable. What you mustn't do is when you hear them say up out of bed, or if they're in distress, days 4 to 6 particularly, you mustn't just roll over in bed and go back to sleep, and you mustn't just think you need to treat this illness for the first 48 hours because you don't. If you've got any concerns at all or any worries, then you visit the government website, you phone 111, and I'm not in any way trying to cover or usurp what they say.